Under the glittering glow of crystal chandeliers, the gala night at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel became the focal point for the elite. The wealthy, the powerful, and the famous gathered, champagne glasses shimmering in hand, engaging in conversation amidst the opulent atmosphere. This wasn't just a charity event. It was where big names made appearances, where the stories of one night could echo across the nation. The narrator continued with a captivating tone. Picture yourself standing in the heart of one of the most luxurious banquet halls. Long tables draped in pristine white cloths are adorned with golden candles and fresh flowers. A classical orchestra in the corner plays soothing melodies, adding a touch of sophistication to the air. But the spotlight isn't on the music or the flawless decor. It's on the people attending. That night, all eyes were on the big names: politicians, business moguls, and celebrities. Among them was Hunter Biden, a figure who always knew how to command attention, whether through his sharp wit or controversial stories. Dressed in a sleek black tuxedo, he strode confidently through the crowd. Famous or infamous, he was always the center of attention. However, in another corner of the room, a less prominent figure quietly observed. Barron Trump, the youngest son of former President Donald Trump, presented a stark contrast. Tall and poised in a perfectly tailored navy suit, Barron was neither loud nor ostentatious. He stood near a table, politely engaging with those who approached him, maintaining a measured distance. In such a crowded space, where every gesture and word could become the subject of gossip, these two individuals stood out in stark contrast. On one side was Hunter, outgoing and brimming with confidence. On the other was Barron, reserved and enigmatic. It was this contrast that laid the foundation for an encounter no one could have anticipated. The ballroom buzzed with lively conversations and polite laughter. Guests eagerly anticipated an unforgettable evening filled with performances, inspiring speeches, and charitable auctions. But the unexpected came when the event's MC announced a surprise, off-schedule segment, a lighthearted sharing session with the guests. This was a small tradition at events like these, where notable figures could share a funny story, a memorable moment, or even just a quick joke to liven up the atmosphere. No one could have guessed that this moment would become the highlight of the entire evening. Being someone who never shied away from the spotlight, Hunter Biden was the first to volunteer for the stage. Scattered applause followed as he took the microphone. With a confident smile, he launched into a series of humorous anecdotes about the event, peppered with a touch of irony about the lavish lifestyles of the upper class. Hunter had a knack for making people laugh, or at times for making them uncomfortable, and tonight he chose the latter. Hunter scanned the room, flashing a sly smile before setting his sights on a particular target. "It's not every day you get to share a room with living legends, is it?" he quipped, his tone laced with humor. The crowd's attention sharpened. Who was Hunter's next target? Then he set his sights on Barron Trump. Turning, Hunter looked directly at Barron, who was standing not too far away. He grinned and said, "Take young Barron Trump, for example. Tall, handsome, born into one of the most famous families in the world. But I've always wondered, what's it like to grow up with a name bigger than your personality?" Hunter's words froze the room. A few people chuckled nervously, but most felt the awkward tension hanging in the air. Barron, despite being thrust into the spotlight, remained calm and composed. The silence lingered for a few seconds, though it felt like an eternity. The room waited for Barron's reaction. Would he bow his head and take it, or do something no one expected? The atmosphere was thick as Barron stood up. With measured steps, he began walking toward the stage. A ripple of murmurs spread across the room. Curiosity filled every corner. The slow, deliberate pace of Barron's movements created an air of anticipation, as if something monumental was about to happen. No one dared interrupt the moment. Barron didn't need words. His confident stride commanded everyone's attention. The room grew so silent you could hear the faint clinking of champagne glasses in the distance. All eyes were fixed on Barron Trump, waiting for what he would do. He walked steadily toward the stage, each step echoing against the polished floors. Barron's towering frame seemed to shrink the space around him. No one spoke. No one dared whisper. Some guests looked intrigued. Others appeared uneasy. On stage, Hunter Biden maintained a faint, forced smile, sensing the situation had slipped out of his control. When Barron reached the stage, the spotlight bathed him in its glow. He didn't rush to grab the microphone from Hunter. Instead, he paused, scanning the room with a calm gaze, as if taking in every face present. This silence wasn't hesitation. It was deliberate and commanding, a silence that carried weight. Finally, Barron took the microphone from Hunter, his voice steady and composed as he began. "Thank you, Mr. Biden, for putting me in the spotlight tonight." The line, delivered with a subtle edge, drew quiet chuckles from some in the audience. Hunter's smirk faltered, his earlier confidence noticeably dimmed. "It's interesting," Barron continued, his deep, clear voice resonating across the room, "to hear someone talk about legacy. I grew up in a family whose name is known around the world, but what many don't realize is that my parents taught me one simple truth. Legacy isn't what you're born into. It's what you leave behind. When I was a kid, my father often told me, 'Barron, true strength doesn't come from the name on the building. It comes from how you help the people around you.' I remember one time he took me to visit a construction site. There, he didn't just talk to the project managers. He sat down and had lunch with the workers. He told me, 'Never forget, everyone deserves respect, no matter what job they do.'" Barron paused, his eyes scanning the room, settling the audience with a calm yet piercing gaze. "So, when someone tries to hurt you with words, remember, those words don't define you. Instead, let your actions speak louder." He turned directly to Hunter, meeting his gaze without flinching. "You asked me what it feels like to have a name bigger than my personality. Let me answer that. A name doesn't determine who I am. I want to be remembered for how I treat others, not for the family I was born into." Barron paused for a moment, his voice softening as he added, "I hope you can find that too, because I believe every one of us deserves to be remembered for the good we do." He shifted his attention back to the audience, his tone resolute. "Tonight, we're not here to talk about ourselves or to entertain with sarcasm. We're here to contribute to something greater, to help those who don't have the chance to stand in this room. Think about them. They don't care who's richer or more famous. What they need is real help." Barron's words felt less like a rebuttal to Hunter and more like a reminder to everyone in the room. He concluded with, "If we can't use our positions to lift others up, then everything we have is meaningless." At first, there were a few scattered claps, hesitant and uncertain, but within seconds, the room erupted into applause and cheers. Some guests stood, saluting Barron as though he were a true leader. Hunter Biden stepped back slightly, his smile strained and awkward. He didn't say another word, clearly aware that Barron had seized control of the moment. Barron turned to the audience one last time, bowed his head slightly and said, "Thank you all for listening. I hope tonight we can do something meaningful together." He handed the microphone back to the MC and left the stage with his head held high and his step steady. The energy in the room shifted. The air buzzed with a newfound respect. As Barron Trump left the stage, a moment of silence hung in the air. Then, applause broke out, tentative at first, but quickly building into a thunderous ovation. The powerful and affluent guests, those who were often too proud to show admiration, stood to their feet, clapping relentlessly. In that moment, the youngest figure in the room had become its quiet hero. The atmosphere in the room seemed to transform completely. The conversations that once revolved around connections, reputations, and personal gains shifted direction. Now everyone was talking about Barron, not just because he had responded to Hunter Biden, but because of how he had done it, calm, intelligent, and deeply heartfelt. As the room buzzed with admiration for Barron, many glanced toward Hunter Biden, still standing on stage, holding a champagne glass with an awkward expression. He forced a smile, trying to maintain composure, but it was clear the moment no longer belonged to him. A few guests whispered among themselves, "Hunter never expected the kid to pull that off. Incredible. He's so young, but already more mature than most adults here." Hunter slowly stepped down from the stage, but no applause followed him. He made his way to the bar, staring intently at his glass of wine, clearly reflecting on what had just transpired. Meanwhile, Barron returned to his seat with an air of complete composure. The guests around him immediately stood up, patting his shoulder, shaking his hand, and offering congratulations. A well-known journalist approached him, eyes filled with admiration. "Barron, that was extraordinary. Do you realize you may have just created a historic moment?" Barron gave a modest smile and replied in a steady voice, "I wasn't thinking about making history. I just said what I believed to be true." As Barron engaged with the guests, an elderly woman, clearly a seasoned philanthropist, approached him. She clasped his hand, her eyes glistening with emotion. "Young man, I've attended galas like this for over 30 years. I've heard countless speeches, but never has anyone, especially someone as young as you, moved me like this. You remind me of my late husband. He always believed that kindness could change the world." Barron smiled warmly, gently holding her hand as he responded, "If I can inspire someone, that's the best thing I could hope to achieve tonight." In one corner of the room, journalists and reporters were busy jotting down notes, filming videos, and snapping pictures. One whispered to a colleague, "This story is going to blow up online. An 18-year-old teaching an entire room a lesson on kindness and humility? This is exactly the kind of story people want to hear." The night had started as a showcase of wealth and influence. But thanks to Barron, it ended with a powerful reminder of the values that truly matter. Meanwhile, social media was heating up. Posts about Barron's response flooded every platform. A tweet quickly garnered thousands of likes within minutes. "Barron Trump just proved that you don't need to shout to be heard. All you need is wisdom and kindness. Bravo, Barron." As the event neared its conclusion, Hunter remained seated quietly at the bar. A friend approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You know, Barron did something most people can't. He made all of us stop and rethink." Hunter nodded slightly, taking a sip of his drink before letting out a sigh. "That kid's good. Honestly, I didn't think a teenager could make me reflect this much. Maybe I was wrong to underestimate him." When the gala ended, Barron stood up, grabbed his coat, and gently bid everyone goodbye. Guests lined up to shake his hand. Some even offered him a slight bow, a rare gesture in such a high-powered event. A young guest, roughly Barron's age, approached hesitantly. "Barron, I just want to say that you really inspired me tonight. I've always been afraid to stand up and share my thoughts, but tonight you taught me that it's worth it." Barron smiled, shaking his hand warmly. "Just start with the small things, and never be afraid to speak the truth." The next morning, the gala's events dominated the media landscape. Headlines across major outlets celebrated Barron Trump's powerful moment. One article called it "A Lesson in Kindness Under the Spotlight." Social media exploded with shares of the video showing Barron's speech. One post received over 1 million likes, captioned, "18 years old and he just taught us all how to live the right way." Before Barron Trump stepped on stage and delivered that unforgettable moment, few people knew what he had gone through to prepare for the night. Behind the calm confidence stood a young man who had learned to face the world's scrutiny from a very early age. That morning at the Trump family's New York residence, Barron quietly prepared for the gala. When his mother, Melania, asked if he was nervous, he responded softly, "I think I'll be fine. I've been under the spotlight my whole life. This is just another stage, but tonight I want it to mean something. I don't think they'll pay much attention to me. They're probably more interested in the bigger celebrities," Barron said softly. Melania placed a gentle but firm hand on his shoulder, her eyes filled with both warmth and wisdom. "You don't need to try to grab attention. Just be yourself and remember, kindness is always the most valuable gift you can give." Those words stayed with Barron, especially as he walked into the crowded ballroom that night. A few days after the event, Hunter Biden did something unexpected. He sent Barron a handwritten letter. It read, "Barron, I must admit that my behavior that night was inappropriate. I thought a lighthearted joke might lighten the mood, but I was wrong. The way you handled the situation not only made me reconsider my actions, but also taught me a lesson about maturity and respect. You are an admirable young man, and I have no doubt that you will accomplish great things. Sincerely, Hunter." This letter was never made public, but those close to Barron revealed that he read it in silence, smiled softly, and folded it carefully. Barron never spoke about the letter, but his quiet reaction suggested that he had chosen to forgive. Sometimes the most powerful moments don't come from rehearsed speeches or meticulously planned events, but from genuine, natural reactions. Barron Trump's story quickly became a global phenomenon. Social media posts about his speech spread like wildfire, amassing millions of interactions. A short clip of Barron speaking reached over 10 million views within 24 hours. One standout tweet read, "Barron Trump, a lesson in composure and kindness the world desperately needed right now." Morning shows like Good Morning America and Today's Show discussed the event at length. Some commentators dubbed Barron the new face of compassion, while others praised how he had risen above the pressures of his family name to establish his own values. At a small high school in Kansas, a 15-year-old boy named Ethan watched the viral clip of Barron on social media. Ethan, often bullied for his small stature and reserved nature, felt inspired by Barron's calm and dignified response to being challenged. For the first time, Ethan thought to himself, if he can stand tall under the weight of the world's judgment, maybe I can face what's in front of me too. That simple moment of inspiration would ripple far beyond the glitz of the gala, proving that sometimes one act of grace can spark change in countless lives. The next day, Ethan decided to stand up for himself in class when his peers teased him. Though his voice trembled, he said firmly, "I'm not perfect, but that doesn't give you the right to look down on me. I deserve respect, just like anyone else." Ethan's story quickly spread throughout his school, and he became a symbol of courage. When asked who inspired him, Ethan simply replied, "Barron Trump." A few weeks after the gala, a renowned journalist had the chance to interview Barron at a quiet cafe in New York. Dressed in a simple navy sweater, Barron appeared relaxed and humble. The journalist asked, "Barron, do you think your speech has changed how people perceive you?" Barron took a sip of his tea before answering, "I wasn't trying to change anyone's perception. I just said what I felt was right. If it helps someone, then I'm glad." The journalist pressed further, "Do you feel pressure being constantly compared to your family?" Barron smiled. "My family is a part of who I am, but I don't let it define me. I want to be remembered as someone who listened, learned, and treated others with respect. Those are the values my parents instilled in me." Following the gala, the funds raised for the charity more than doubled the original target. Many donors sent letters to the organization, noting that Barron's speech had inspired them to contribute. One major donor wrote, "I've attended events like this many times, but I've never felt truly connected to the cause. Barron Trump's words reminded me of the real meaning of charity." In the weeks that followed, Barron's impact continued to ripple outward. From a teenager finding his voice in Kansas to donors rediscovering the spirit of giving, Barron's calm, thoughtful demeanor at the gala proved that one genuine moment of kindness and conviction could inspire profound change. Barron Trump's story is more than just a personal moment at a lavish gala. It's a lesson in kindness, composure, and how we can use our voice to make a difference. He reminded the world that even if you're the youngest person in the room, you can bring the greatest value. When asked about his future, Barron replied simply, "I don't know what I'll do, but I know I'll try to live true to my values. And if I can help just one person feel better about themselves, that's my success." Barron Trump's story doesn't end with one grand gala. It's a reminder that kindness, calmness, and wisdom aren't tied to age or status. They are values anyone can choose to live by. Barron's actions not only helped him navigate an awkward situation, but also left a profound lesson. Words can hurt, but they can also heal. The way you treat others not only defines who you are, but can also inspire them to live better lives. What do you think about how Barron handled this situation? If you were in his shoes, how would you have reacted? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. If this story inspired you, don't forget to hit the like button to spread this meaningful message. And if you want more heartfelt, inspiring stories like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss a single video. Remember, every small action you take today can make a big difference tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.